Let's talk about your stimulus. We've got some good news finally on the stimulus front. Hallelujah. Say it ain't so. I guess because we have 2 days left until Republicans go on their 30-day vacation. It's always good to negotiate with someone before they're about to leave on vacation, because then they'll just give you the farm, right? Oh, I got to go on vacation. What, you want $600 a week in unemployment benefits? My vacation, I got to catch a flight on Friday. Fine. And that's exactly what happened with Mitch McConnell. Senate Republicans have caved on the $600 a week unemployment enhanced benefit. Woo, hallelujah. That's right. That's where we are. Next stimulus package has a massive step forward because Senate Leader Mitch McConnell came out and said that he is prepared to support federal unemployment benefits back at $600 per week. This would put us back in that driver's seat of where we needed to be with this $600 per week. That's a very, very good move. Again, I come back to this comment I got on my wall this morning from Self-Taught Beauty, who left me this message. I just got a 3-day eviction notice on Friday. I offered my landlord what little bit of money I had, and since I don't have it all, he told me he was coming with a sheriff tomorrow to put me and my kids out on the street. We have nowhere to go, and the homeless shelters in my area are full, so I guess we'll be on the streets. What other option does she have? She can't go to work. You know, employment is shut down, and unemployment benefits ran out last week because Congress was dithering and wasting their time. The HEROES Act by the Democrats was passed back in May. It's been sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. I have to say, what's so interesting about this entire argument right now is that Mitch McConnell, and we talked about this yesterday with David Dayen on the show, he's been like largely absent and sidelined from this whole process. He's basically admitted that he's not going to have a consensus vote in his caucus, and it's really going to be up to Democrats to get this thing through. So what he admitted yesterday, he said this, I'm not even making this up, I wish I was making this up, is that Mitch McConnell seems to be on the outside looking in on this whole thing. He said that the process was between Democratic leaders and the White House. He said that yesterday, that this process is being meshed out right now, ferreted out, whatever you want to call it, between the White House, Mark Meadows, President Trump, and Democrats. And he's like, he admitted, until they get something, then they'll bring it to me. He's been marginalized. He's been pushed out of this whole process, and hallelujah, because he's been a failure for months on this. He's been an absolute failure for months on this. Totally out of touch, totally tone deaf, and his race in Kentucky right now, could change the entire dynamic of the Senate if he loses in November. Mitch McConnell, I really think your time is up. Your clock is ticking. Chuck Schumer took to Twitter right after this comments, and I'll play that for you here in a second. Here's what Mitch McConnell said yesterday in front of reporters about the process and how, he's not going to have, there's going to be like 20 different Republicans who aren't going to vote for a thing because they think we've already done too much. Yeah, tell that to her. Tell that to her, who's about to be thrown out of her house. You've already done too much. Republicans, you've just done too much. You've just done so much for people like that. No, you know what you've done? You've done so much for businesses. You've done so much for Wall Street. Screw the little guy. Keep doing what you're doing for big businesses, though, and protecting those businesses. Look, we all want a robust business environment in the United States, but at what cost? They don't have to be mutually exclusive. Take care of our people the way you take care of big businesses. Here's Mitch McConnell yesterday on why he's sort of smirking. What? They were to have a consensus in here. Have a consensus.
That much closer to the election. So I don't think the definition of success here is whether we have a unanimous vote. I think the definition of success is the product something that will actually make a difference? Liability protection, kids back in school, PPP replenished, health care, something that would actually make a difference. And in addition to a solution to this unemployment problem, we know it's going to be unacceptably high for a long time. We have a role to play in that. We've argued about just how generous it should be in terms of getting people back to work. And we're advocating sending another $1,200 check to those people who've been really hurt by this, a significant percentage of whom are in the hospitality field. They work for hotels or restaurants. So
notice what I first said there in my list. My first thing I said in my list was liability protection, and then I mentioned the people way down here. Priorities, right? You got your priorities together. I'm glad you made no mention of unemployment benefits in your first round in your HEALS Act. That was not part of your plan. You really didn't. I mean, you were talking about a 70%, $200 if that, was going nowhere. You didn't talk about extensions for health care. What about hazard pay? All of those things were not mentioned. Now you want to talk about the people, but not having a consensus is no big deal. Okay. Where are Republicans on this? 20 Republicans that aren't going to vote for this and helping Americans. You know why? Because they got their big bailout already for big businesses. They got their first plan through a few months ago that helped with the PPP program and helped big businesses. Yeah. Well, Senator Chuck Schumer tweeted right away, "Today we learned that the most recent quarter was the worst on record for our economy. Last night, Senator McConnell confirmed that 20 Republican senators don't want to do anything more to fight this crisis. We won't stop fighting until Americans get the relief they deserve." So this is as Byron York was talking about the next stage of this is a classic back and forth Washington negotiation right now. We play this game, but the point I'm making, and I have been making, is why in the world did Republicans wait to start playing this game until right before they're about to go on vacation and 2.5 months after the Democrats passed their HEROES Act? They could have said, yes, this is too much, this is too big, there are a lot of lefty programs in here, there's a lot of bloat for cannabis, and there's blue state bailout money for pension plans and whatever else you don't like in this thing. Why don't you do something about it and have a discussion right now? Instead, they did what? They dithered. My favorite word. I'm going to get a shirt made with that on there. So here's Byron York at the Washington Examiner, and he thinks this is where negotiations are right now. This is not an end, folks. I mean, yes, they've given the concession on the $600 per week, but we are not done. Listen.
But here again, if you look at this whole thing, this is really kind of a classic Washington standoff. The budget, the deadline is approaching. In this case, it's actually passed. Something desperately needs to be done. A budget needs to be passed, or in this case, unemployment benefits need to be extended. And Democrats just want to spend zillions and zillions of dollars, and Republicans want to spend a little bit less, and they're arguing over that. And when Nancy Pelosi says she does not expect a deal this week, I would believe her. After all, she's in charge of the House side of this. And so this could go on for quite a while, as standoffs over budgets have gone on in the past.
Remember, Republicans go on vacation on Friday, August 7th. They go for 30 days. They're not back until September 7th. 30 days. Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats have already canceled vacation. Look, I know it's about optics, right? If you're a politician, Nancy Pelosi, you want to look like you're working, okay? You don't want to look like you're out of touch. That's the right answer. I guess, we could all be a lack of transparency and pretend like they're just playing politics with it. I don't care. She canceled that vacation a month ago. She's like, we're not going on vacation until we have a bill. We're not leaving. So she canceled the House vacations. Republicans have not. Again, I know it comes down to optics. Republicans think they can get this done by Friday. They can have a stimulus package by Friday. Nancy Pelosi doesn't think so. They're still miles apart on a number of key parts here. And I don't think I don't know that we're going to get this by Friday. I would be shocked if they pull this off by Friday. Of course, one of the big sticking points is still state and local governments. Republicans continue to talk about this as a blue state bailout, which again is also, you know, it's fun to say, right? Blue state bailout. And yes, California, New York, there are other states that have horribly mismanaged their pension money. All of these pensions are about to collapse in a lot of these big states. Blue states, absolutely. It's been run terribly. But there are many red states that are crushed right now under this. So to label it again, to label one thing as a blue state bailout is hogwash. It's red states and blue states that are being equally crushed by this pandemic and having to furlough state employees. When you furlough state employees, they don't make money. They can't put money back into the system. Also, basic services are then being shut down or slammed. And look what's happening with the post office right now. So red states, blue states need this money. That's one of the big, big sticking points. Now, we do know that liability protection for Mitch McConnell is his red line in the sand. He wants, notice that that's the very first thing he said at that press conference that I played for you a moment ago. The first thing, the most important thing to his mind, he didn't even mention people first. The first thing he mentioned was liability protection for businesses. That's it. First thing on his list. That's his red line. He will not pass a bill unless that's in there. Question from Stephen Moore, who is a friend of President Trump, White House economic advisor to President Trump. He's an economist. You know, President Trump the other day was talking about making executive orders and just saying, I could, if I wanted to, I could stave off eviction crisis in this country and make a nationwide moratorium on evictions. Why not? So I asked the question, why the heck not? Why don't you? He said, oh, I could also, put an executive order in place and halt all payroll taxes. That would help many Americans right now. You wouldn't have to pay any taxes. Why not? Okay, if you have solutions and you're waiting on Congress and they're dithering, why don't you do something? So Stephen Moore says, you know what? I think that's a good idea, Mr. President. Stop waiting on Congress. Of course, he's picking on Nancy Pelosi specifically, but why don't you look at your own senators? Why don't you look at your own Republican senators, where you have 20 of them that are not going to vote for anything? Why don't you do something? Here's Stephen Moore.
So my point is, I don't see any utility right now from Donald Trump continuing to negotiate with Nancy Pelosi. There is not a single thing that she is in favor of that is good for the economy. I've read through her $3 trillion bill. It's all just giveaways to left-wing special interest groups. So Donald Trump, just do it. Just suspend the payroll tax, stimulate the economy that way. And if you want to make some separate deals with Pelosi, great. But right now, Stuart, this phase 4 negotiation is looking like a train wreck. It's going to ruin the Republican Party. It's going to split the party down the middle, and it's going to enact a lot of provisions that will not do a lot of good for the economy at all.
Okay, so we're focused on the economy here. I get that part of it, right? And you're an economist, Stephen. I get it. I've interviewed Stephen for years. I think once a week for 10 years I interviewed Stephen on our show. And you know, he is definitely a conservative economist, and that's where his head is at on this, right? But when he says he read the entire HEROES Act, and he looked through it, I did too. I read Nancy Pelosi's bill. There's a lot in there that's important for the American family right now. The stimulus checks, how is that? He said it was all. He used the word all. The whole thing was just a pile of left-wing programs. Stimulus checks for the American family. Money for people not being evicted. $100 billion so people could stay in their homes. $100 billion also to make sure that landlords can pay their mortgages. Talk about stimulating the economy. What happens when those mortgages go under and there's a pile of foreclosures that are already happening? That's going to help crush the banking system, which you guys love, right? And what's going to happen there when banks stop lending because they're being crushed? You can tell me how you feel about it right now by smashing that like button if you're watching right now. We have 11,000 people watching right now. And subscribe to our channel. We go live every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. So back to what I was saying. Stephen Moore. He's saying that this was a big pile of left-wing programs, and I think he's full of garbage on that. There was plenty of left-wing programs in there. Support for cannabis. You know, people want to make fun of the cannabis piece for a second. I just want to say something. There's a lot of cannabis farmers that are not leftists at all.
They're Republicans who started businesses. I know a lot of them, actually. I've had Republicans who are investing in cannabis. These are Republicans, conservatives, who started cannabis businesses that asked me to invest. I didn't. Not that it wasn't a good idea, but I didn't. And guess what? They have a whole banking problem on the cannabis side. This was in their provision. They have to use cash. They're not even allowed to use banks for their money. It's ridiculous. So there's a whole level of, you have all these businesses that were started in Colorado and California and other places by conservatives, and they're not able to put, they have to use cash. They're a cash-based business. It's a whole disaster. 60 Minutes did a whole great story about it. It's pretty interesting. Go and watch it if you're interested in it and educate yourself on it. But don't just spew right-wing talking points about cannabis, okay? But yes, there was plenty of bloat in Nancy Pelosi's bill, to be sure. But to label it as one big umbrella, as just a pile of left-wing programs, is horse crap. It's garbage. There was plenty in there that could help the American family, especially on the eviction front, especially on extending unemployment benefits. But the news of this morning is that we finally have a breakthrough on the stimulus. So if you're just joining us, we have a major breakthrough on the stimulus this morning, and that is that Mitch McConnell has vowed, he's caving, folks. Hallelujah. Mitch is caving on the unemployment benefits. So if any of you right now are waiting on unemployment benefits, the $600 per week in unemployment benefits under their stimulus plan will be put back in place. But again, we have to wait. We have to wait for them to come to an agreement on the other pieces. So there is agreement. Mitch McConnell says he is prepared to support the $600 unemployment benefits. Now, here's where I see this going over the next few days, folks, if you care. Here's my opinion of what's going to happen next, okay? We've got the big piece of this taken care of, which is the $600. They've come to an agreement on the $1,200 stimulus checks. That's already checked. You're going to get another stimulus check for $1,200. Now we know unemployment enhanced benefits will be continued for another, probably, hopefully through the rest of the year, okay? $600 per week in unemployment benefits on top of what you are making from your state unemployment benefits. Now, the two biggest sticking points that remain are liability insurance protection or liability protection for businesses. That's what Mitch McConnell wants. And the other big piece of this is what Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats want, which is money for state and local governments, so that state unemployment offices don't go under, firefighters, police departments, hazard pay for workers, state governments that are crushed. These are the two big pieces, and they're on a collision course right now. So what will happen? That's the great question. Now, I think instead of a 5-year moratorium on lawsuits, maybe Mitch McConnell will say we'll go with 3 years. And instead of $1 trillion for state and local governments, Mitch McConnell will say, if you can come to meet me here on the liability, we'll lower this and come back at $500 billion. Who knows? But what I don't know, and I can't answer, is why this whole negotiation right now is happening between Mark Meadows and the White House and Democrats. And Mitch McConnell said when they figure it out, they're going to bring it to us. Really? You're handing this over to the White House and Democrats? Okay. That's what Mitch McConnell said. He's been sidelined in this. I don't get it. Something fishy is going on here, folks. I don't know. I don't like the smell of it. It's not passing the smell test. I don't know. I just want to keep watching. I just want to keep watching this interview that Trump did on Axios. Who wants to see it again? How many people want? I just can't get over this interview. It's the most bizarre thing I've seen in a long time. And I've seen a lot of bizarre stuff. Yeah, I want to play this again. Who wants to see it? I want to play it. I'm going to play it. Because it's my show. I get to do what I want. This is President Trump. This is the interview that everybody is talking about. It was trending all over Twitter. And this reporter, Jonathan Swan, he did something that no other reporter is able to do. Like, he managed to get answers and cut through the smoke in a way that no other American reporter has been able to do. I don't know if it was his like passive-aggressive way of doing it. He actually, when I was watching him, I had to say, I turned to my wife and I was like, he kind of reminds me of me. Because he can do that passive-aggressive thing really well. And so when he looks down at the papers and he says,
Oh, I see what you did here. I see what you did here. You basically, you totally screwed up, but I see what you did. You're looking at a proportional, a proportion of cases. I'm talking about a proportion of population. I see where you went wrong. He did it in like, in almost like a Trumpian condescending way back to him. And I kind of appreciated that. I like a good smartass. You know, I'm from Philadelphia. But I loved, I mean, this is fantastic. I just can't get over that this is the President of the United States trying to tell a reporter what statistics that they should use. Here, no, use my fake statistics. Use the ones that make me look better.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death,
It's started to go up
here's
again.
one. Well, right here, the United States is lowest in numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
Lower than
We're
the
lower
world?
than
What is that?
Europe.
In
Take a
what?
look.
In what?
Take a look. Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population. That's where the US is really bad.
Well,
Much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
you can't do that. You have
Why
to go,
can't I do that?
You have to go by where. Look, here is the United States. Now look, we're last, meaning we're first.
Last, I don't know
We
what
have
we're
the
first
best.
in. As a what?
Take a look
Okay,
again. It's
I just-
cases,
Okay.
and we have cases because of the testing.
1,000 Americans are dying a day, but I understand on cases it's different.
Oh, I'm going to try to use that in an argument. You can't use that. What? When my wife says to me, I see that the dishes are still out on the table. You clearly didn't clean them up. Well, what are you basing that on? Are you basing it on the fact that there are dishes still on the table? You can't use that as a reason to tell me that I didn't do the dishes. What about all the dishes that I did do? Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the dishes that are on the table that aren't clean. Yeah, but you can't use that. I want to try that tonight, see if that works around here. Also, I just love his response. Oh, yeah, I just love his scrunched face too. He's like, huh? What are you saying? So that's our big update today. Thank you so much for subscribing, smashing that like button. We set a new record here. Thank you to the 11,000 of you who are watching live. I really appreciate that. If we were in an arena right now, that would be bigger than a Trump rally was in Tulsa. That's right. Because you care about the future of this country. You care about your families. You care about making a difference. I want you to go to vote.org and look for that absentee ballot, okay? Now that we know that the president supports absentee and mail-in voting, maybe that'll change some people's minds. We saw this, right? There you go. President Trump tweeting yesterday, whether you call it vote by mail or absentee voting in Florida, the election system is safe and secure, tried and true. Florida's voting system has been cleaned up. We defeated Democrats' attempt to change. So in Florida, I encourage all of you to request a ballot and vote by mail. I just love the hypocrisy. I love when Florida election officials on the GOP side call and they're like, Donald, we're going to get our asses handed to us here in Florida because you keep telling everyone not to do a mail-in absentee ballot. They actually work. Remember, Republicans have won elections with mail-in ballots. What? Would you please stop telling people that? Florida, which is the epicenter of the coronavirus right now, all these people are not going to show up on November 3rd and stand in line in Florida heat. You know, it's still hot as sin in Florida in November, by the way. I lived there. Even at the beginning of November, it's still hot. You're going to stand in line, people who are worried about their health. So go to vote.org right now, request your absentee ballot based on your state. Remember, absentee voting, mail-in voting, early voting starts in about 40 days in some states. Get your ballots in now. Do some research on your candidates. Let's make a change this November. Let's start putting the people in this country first instead of Wall Street, instead of these big corporations that are running, they're running just all over us right now. And they keep getting these nice big handouts from Washington. They keep getting these nice big bailouts from Republicans in Congress. Make a change right now. And finally, I will mention this. We give this out for free. We do a lot of work on this. every morning. If you want to subscribe to our free newsletter, just go to morninginvest.com, sign up. Very simple to do. You'll get the newsletter for free in your email inbox every morning, first thing in the morning. And you can read it in about 5 minutes.